what is Nrf2?
Nrf2 is a protein, it's a transcriptional protein that when it gets activated, when something acts on the cell, the Nrf2 protein goes into the nucleus. It attaches to a very specific segment of DNA called the antioxidant response element, and it acts as a master regulator. It turns on a switch at that point, and it upregulates or increases the activity of certain genes, and it downregulates or decreases the activity of other genes. The genes that it turns on or turns up are the genes that code for things like antioxidant enzymes like superoxide dismutase and catalase and glutathione and hundreds of others. But it also increases the production of other anti-inflammatory compounds and anti-fibrotic compounds. And then there's another messenger that it works through called NF-kappa B, and through NF-kappa B it downregulates the bad stuff, the pro-fibrotic and the pro-inflammatory stuff. So you get the best of both worlds. More of the good, more of the anti-inflammatory, and less of the bad, less of the pro-inflammatory. And that's essentially how Nrf2 works.
And what is the benefit of Nrf2, especially when you tend to age? And what happens when you're aging, and what would you want to turn on the Nrf2 pathway?
Well, oxidative stress is the thing that Nrf2 reduces. And for those of you that don't know what oxidative stress is, that's the process of damage to your cells that occur over the years that you're alive through the process of making energy. The mitochondria that Dr. Silverman's going to be talking about produce your energy in the form of ATP. They also produce these byproducts called free radicals. These are toxic molecules that will damage any part of the cell that they bump into. And so as we age, we have a cumulative buildup of the damage from the free radicals to our cells. That damages the oxidative stress, and the cumulative effect is what leads to the aging process and many of the health conditions associated with aging.
Hot damn, that's not good. So what do we do about it? I mean, you have oxidative stress, aging, so what should we do?
Well, historically, what people have tried to do is to take antioxidant vitamins like C and E and beta-carotene and such, but those are very weak at neutralizing the free radicals. They will do it in a one-to-one fashion, whereas the enzymes that your own cells produce, like superoxide dismutase, for example, can neutralize up to 1 million free radical cell molecules per molecule of superoxide dismutase. So they're not even in the same ballpark. So the Nrf2 pathway is what activates the production of these antioxidant enzymes that are significantly more potent at neutralizing the free radicals and therefore reducing the oxidative stress.
So with that, for the new people out there, this is how Protandim Nrf2 started. The researchers initially were looking at a way to increase SOD, superoxide dismutase, and catalase in order to reduce oxidative stress. What they didn't know was it was through the Nrf2 pathway, but originally they wanted to reduce oxidative stress. So let's talk more about Protandim Nrf2 specifically. What is it, and what kind of research do we have to show that it works?
So Protandim is an all-natural plant-based supplement with 5 ingredients: green tea, turmeric, milk thistle, ashwagandha, and bacopa. And the researchers found that these 5 together had a gigantic synergistic effect. If you look at the graph, and if you've ever heard one of my in-depth scientific studies, I've shown that graph. Each of the individual ingredients does relatively little to activate these antioxidant genes. But the 5 together, the effect was enhanced 18-fold. And that's huge. And it's a synergistic effect that really gives Protandim its power. Now, the original study that was done was a human clinical trial that showed a 40% reduction in oxidative stress in 30 days in humans that took Protandim. To my knowledge, there is no other product on the market, drug or supplement, that can do that. And that was huge, and that was the basis for what launched Protandim Nrf2. Now, since that time, we have now a total of 27 peer-reviewed scientific studies that you can find on PubMed. Yeah. I mean, where else are you going to find that kind of science? And that's really what attracted me to this company in the first place, was the science. I didn't want to have anything to do with the business, but that's another story. So the 27 studies are incredible. I mean, organizations like the American Heart Association published research about Protandim. That's a big deal. But I just want to highlight two other studies. And one was a study that you guys are probably familiar with from the National Institute on Aging from 2016. And in that study, they were trying to see if there were any natural products that could extend lifespan or health span. And the only all-natural product that was able to do that was Protandim. Does that excite anybody? Yeah. It extended the health span of male mice by 7%, which doesn't sound like much. And there was a trend in female mice. But the problem with that study was they were underdosing the Protandim by 50% for the first half of the study. So they looked at some really good supplements, some really good natural products in that particular study, and Protandim was the only one that actually caused an increase in the health span. So that's a big deal. Any company would give their left arm for that kind of research done by a third party. And then the third study that I want to highlight is one that just came out in June of this year from Colorado State University. And that is a study that looked at the effect of exercise and antioxidant therapy. And specifically what they did is they took these mice that were marathon mice. They ran 6 miles a day, right? Rats, sorry, Sprite Dolly rats. Rats. She just wants to make sure it's rats and not mice. Because mice are cute, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, gusguses, they're pretty cute. Rats, they have 2 on the tail.
Imagine a rat running 6 miles in a day, okay? So what they were looking at was the effect that antioxidant therapy had on muscle development, protein synthesis, mitochondrial biogenesis. And they compared vitamin C to Protandim. And what they found was that in the vitamin C treated group, that blunted the beneficial effects of the exercise on muscle and protein synthesis and also on mitochondrial biogenesis. But Protandim actually enhanced that effect. It enhanced the effects of the exercise. So for all of you exercise people out there who are taking vitamin C thinking it's helping you, it's not. It's not helping you with your physical development, and it may actually be causing you harm.
Wow, that's
a big deal.
That is a bummer fifi, yes. So, but that's not a bummer fifi for our Protandim Nrf2, because we know that now taking Protandim Nrf2 when you exercise is not going to diminish the beneficial effect that exercise has on your muscle and your overall well-being. So that is an amazing study, and it was just published June the 1st. But I'm going to go back to the mice study, the Gus. Well, that longevity study was on mice, and people are telling me, well, these were on mice and not on humans. How do you respond to that?
Well, I had a very smart cardiologist ask me that exact same question, and I said to him, I looked him in the eye and I said, explain to me how you're going to do a longevity study on humans. Think about that for a moment.
Yeah.
Who's going to be around to report the results? They're all going to be dead. So yes, it was an animal study, but you have to take a little bit of a leap of faith and realize that they're mammals and we are mammals as well.
Well, but we share 88% of the same DNA.
That's true.
So
well, I have a question for you. I was asked in Australia if it works on marsupials, and I'm not certain. Has it ever been tested in marsupials?
What's the lifespan of a marsupial?
I don't know. It depends upon the species, I guess.
Okay, well, we'll have to check on that with our friend the Aussies. Any Aussies out there? So how long is the marsupial living? Okay, we don't know yet. Next time we know that. So, we were the first time on the market with the Protandim Nrf2, which activates the Nrf2 pathway, which is good for oxidative stress. Now we are the first one on the market with the Protandim Nrf1 that you all know is good for your mitochondria. So I'm going to turn toward Dr. Silverman and I'm going to ask you the first question. What is a mitochondrion?
Thank you very much. And Canadians in the house? There you go. Thank you guys. So mitochondria. I actually think that mitochondria is the most important cellular organelle or component of the cell, and I call it a cellular hard drive or a cellular motherboard. And why is that? Many functions. Number one, ask yourself how many of you now are falling asleep, despite that, we're cracking multiple jokes here. So if you are, your mitochondria is not working right, and you are in lack of energy. So mitochondria is our powerhouse. That's number one. Number two, mitochondria actually controls our genes. So obviously you would like to have healthy mitochondria to convey proper signals into our genes, in our DNA. Then, on top of it, mitochondria is our cellular policeman. Healthy mitochondria recognize the cells that do not belong, that something went wrong, something went wonky with those cells, and will execute those cells. So dysfunctional mitochondria, bad mitochondria, doesn't recognize this. And amongst other mechanisms, it actually participates in calcium regulation, or as well as iron or heme regulation, and many other processes. A very important organelle, and has to be healthy.
Okay, well, usually you hear about mitochondria being only making energy, mostly making energy, ATP for the cell, but it has many other key functions. But you say something, it's the motherboard of the cell. My motherboard in my computer gets sluggish. So what if
you need to buy a Mac?
Well, it was a Mac, so I switched to a PC. So what happens if your mitochondria, your motherboard, gets sluggish?
So let me ask you a contra question. What did you do to your computer?
Well, first of all, I rebooted, cleaned it, and voila.
Well, that's exactly what we need to do with the mitochondria. We need to restore, replace, reboot, renew.
Oh, I did only 2 things on Nrf4, so I better get back to work on my computer. So, reboot, restore, reclaim, repair, everything. Okay, wow. So how do you do that?
There are many ways, and let's start with reduction of oxidative stress. That is number one. We know that mitochondria is a very vulnerable organelle. Some call it, it's like a canary in a coal mine. It's non-protected. And not only it is bound to be harmed by environmental oxidative stress, the one that Dr. Gordon was talking to us about, however, mitochondria is the major cellular producer of free radicals. Because how do we make energy? We utilize oxygen. And we definitely don't utilize oxygen by 100%. In a healthy mitochondria, only 80% of oxygen is utilized. 20% will turn into free radicals. In an unhealthy individual, dysfunctional mitochondria, only 40% of oxygen is utilized. 60% turns into free radicals. So, healthy mitochondria has its own antioxidant mechanisms. So we need to bring it up. So clean oxidative stress, number one, take your Nrf2 per tandem. Number two, we need to turn on another protein, which is called Nrf1.
Okay.
So would you like me to?
Well, go ahead.
Nrf1 is another what is called nuclear transcription factor. Nuclear, meaning that protein goes into the nucleus and turns on or upregulates over 400 genes, and amongst those genes, there are mitochondrial genes, the genes that turns on production of new, young, vibrant, healthy mitochondria.
So with that said, you are talking about activating the Nrf1 pathway to get good, healthy mitochondria. Protein Nrf1, with its 5 ingredients, and I'm going to cite them: acetyl L-carnitine, quercetin, grape extract, CoQ10, and alpha-lipoic acid, are what is in the protein Nrf1. You recognize the name of some of those ingredients. These are building blocks in the mitochondria, but that doesn't make them a Nrf1 activator. I've shown the data in the past that they are a Nrf1 activator, But more importantly, I want to show a set of data today, the fact that treating muscle cells with protected Nrf1 increase the production of mitochondrial protein. So let me bring the slide.
Guys, you do understand that, as Dr. Gordon mentioned, we have 27 peer-reviewed studies on Nrf2. And we know, this is awesome, right? And we know that Nrf2 science is now on PubMed over 10,000 studies. However, there are very, very few, if any, studies on Nrf1. And to have our new Nrf1 pretendant study is incredible. So that new data, I think, is outstanding.
So thank you for saying that. But remember, it takes time to publish. So I'm showing you the first set of data, and we are continuing to give you more data. And at some point, we'll create a manuscript and get published. But so what you see on the screen is the blue and orange area. So these are muscle cells that were treated with protected Nrf1. 8 hours is in blue, 12 hours is in orange. Notice, compared to the vehicle, which is on the left side, you have a significant increase in mitochondrial protein synthesis at 8 hours and even more at 12 hours. When you have mitochondrial protein synthesis, when that bar goes up, that tells you that you are making more mitochondria, more of those key young mitochondria to help your cells be healthier. So this is the first set of data. So at 8 and 12 hours, protected Nrf1 activates the making of new mitochondrial protein in the muscle cells.
And I think this is so critically important because there is a theory of aging which is basically related to the slowing our mitochondria, especially turning 40, the number of mitochondria goes down and the functionality of mitochondria goes down as well. So having the study is so critically important. And the last point of my talk is about the synergies. So Dr. Chevreau just mentioned to you that 5 ingredients in Nrf1 per tandem are not Nrf1 activators.
Correct.
They are major participants in the functionality of mitochondria. However, 5 of them creates this synergy in this Nrf1 upregulation in a proper fashion.
And that's really what all our products, the protein products are about. Putting ingredients that together have better benefit, higher benefit than the sum of each of them. So we've talked about protected Nrf2, we've talked about protected Nrf1, the importance of taking them both together because a declining mitochondria create more free radicals, a healthier mitochondria has SOD to take care of itself, but it also needs the Nrf2. Let's talk about the next two in the vitality stack, which is the Omega Plus and the Probio. So Dr. Brimhall, enlighten us, what is a probiotic?
Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit how you can actually absorb the Nrf1 and the Nrf2, right? So I'm just curious, how many of you in here actually know you're supposed to be on a probiotic? All right, so keep your hands up if you're currently on ours. If you drop any down, I'm going to hurt you. All right, so guys, I think it's pretty clear from what we're seeing in media and stuff like that is that everybody should be on a probiotic. Safe, right? Okay, do you know anybody that's ever been on an antibiotic? Do you know of anybody that eats food that's non-organic and has antibiotics in it? All right, so do you want them to take the best probiotic? Yes. Okay. So we'll talk a little about that in a minute, but everybody needs a probiotic, and here's why. If you get paid, do you want all the money or a little of the money? All right. So when you take your protein of Nrf1 and Nrf2, do you want all the benefit or some of the benefit? All right. So here's how it works. The efficiency at which your digestive tract works is directly proportional to how much you can absorb. So the probiotics that are in our digestive tract, their job is to help us digest, break down, and then actually take in those nutrients and get the benefit from them. At the same time, they're designed to protect us. Our immune system lives in our digestive tract, and God did that for a reason, because we're not the brightest people, right? We eat stuff we should not. But so the immune system lives there, right? So the probiotics are part of that defense mechanism to keep the digestive tract super healthy. Anybody heard the term leaky gut? All right. How many of you want your digestive tract to work really well? How many want your buddy's digestive tract to work better than it does? Right? Okay, the probiotics are critical for that.
Okay, well, now we want a probiotic. So what about our probio? Why is it so different from what's out there on the market?
Awesome. So I've been a part of creating multiple probiotics, and with the probiotics, this one is drastically different. And I think we all know that Nutrigenomics, LifeVantage, that's where we're going, right? That's what we're doing, and we're way ahead of the curve. And technology. From everything that we do to the products to how we present the business, right? This probiotic is just that. It's a patented technology where it's 15 times more effective because of absorption. Getting the probiotic in you is part of the battle, but getting it where it needs to be is the other part. And so the technology of the Probio and what we have, where you actually have it in a timely fashion where it gets everywhere throughout your digestive tract, is critical, right? You're able to get all of it throughout the whole intestinal tract. You have bacteria from your mouth all the way out. And unless you're taking this probiotic, it's not happening. Right? There's 5 specific strains that have been studied. Those specific strains are designed for what they do. You don't need a ton of strains, and you don't need a super high dose if it gets where it needs to get. The other part, the well immune that's in it, guys, that product, that is beautiful when they put together. When I teach them for a company before, right, we use 2 different products, a probiotic and a beta-glucan, which is what well immune is. Right? Why? Because I've never seen them put together like this. Right? And on top of this, the well immune, which got studies of itself, that's what helps regulate the immune system. How do you think your immune system needs to work better? Yeah, you ever known anybody that needs their immune system not to work so good, called an autoimmune condition? Okay, the Probio that we have, it allows your body to heal the digestive tract. At the same time, you're helping to regulate the immune system. So if it needs to raise up, it raises up. If it needs to decrease, it decreases down. So it's a huge benefit to every single one of us, no matter how old you are.
Okay, well, let's talk about, so how do you take the Probio, so those 3 little spheres? Is there a best, well, do you want to
I'll let you go on this and I'll come back.
So, there's best, bestest, and bestest, no? Okay, so the best way to take the Probio, as we mentioned, we want the Probio to get to our small intestine as quickly as possible. So the best will be to take on an empty stomach. So first thing in the morning, you get up, or just in the middle of the night, if you're wandering around going to the bathroom, just take your Probio. And I'm not kidding, actually, you could do that. So take it on an empty stomach because it's going to zoom through your stomach the fastest and get to where it belongs, okay? The next best thing is if you don't want to take first in the morning or you forgot, it's better to take it with the rest of your breakfast because it's always better to take the product than rather not. Then the Nrf1, Nrf2, take it together half hour after you took your Probio with your breakfast and with the Omega Plus we're going to be talking about because the ingredients in Nrf1, Nrf2, some of them are fat soluble, so you want a bit of fat with them, and the Omega Plus is the best way to take it. So Probio first, wait for half hour if you can, and take the others. So in the past, 2 years ago, I mentioned to separate Nrf1 from Nrf2. This is a different formulation. Take everything together, and you will have a happy body.
Yeah, part of that is, you know, if we make it too complicated, right, what happens? People don't do it, right? So absolutely, best case scenario, probiotic by itself, but if not, just, it only works if it's what? In you, right? So take it together if at all. Just get it into your system. It's critical that these get into your system, and the effects are absolutely cumulative, and it's synergistic with not only the individual products, but how the products work together.
Okay, so with that, I say, when I say take it in the middle of the night, why not? Some people like to take it before going to bed, so whenever it's the best for you, I'm going to say, take the damn thing. So this is my normal way of talking. I have a dirty mouth. Come on, I'm French, so, but we are going to win Sunday at the soccer game. So then we're going to be talking about the Omega Plus. But before we talk about Omega Plus, let's talk about Omega 3. What are Omega 3 fatty acids?
Right. So omega-3 fatty acids are also known as essential fatty acids. So anytime in healthcare, when you talk about something essential, what's that mean? Your body cannot make it, right? So if you're not taking omega-3s in your diet or in your supplements, guess what? Your body cannot make it, which means that you're gonna be deficient. So why is that important? Guys, how many have ever said, I think I have a hormone problem? Have you ever heard that before? I got a hormone problem, it's all from hormones, right? Right? So guess what? All your hormones backbone come from fats. You have to have those. Anybody ever worried about your brain or your buddy's brain? Okay, you have to have omega-3 fatty acids for that. And when you look out there, and if you're not taking omega-3 fatty acid, you can't make pretty much any cell in your body, because every cell in your body it needs essential fatty acids. So here's also a key component. We talk a lot about, like, you know, keeping our diets clean and making sure that we're doing a lot of right things out. And most people aren't getting near enough fatty acids in their diet, and it's critical for your heart health, your brain health, your eye health, like every part of us. And we talk about making sure you're getting a good source, right? I hear all the time about fish oil, like, where are you getting it from? Does it have metals in it? Like, or, you know, is it safe? Like, is it sustainable? What I love about what LifeVantage is doing is they're taking and they're helping us answer the questions that are out there, making it super, super simple, right? So the omega-3 fatty acids that we get come from a super clean source that's sustainable, and we can trace it back to the boat. Like, I love that. And I love the fact that you can really take these out of the bottle and pop it in your mouth, and it doesn't taste fishy. That's how clean it is. So you go buy a big bottle of something from somewhere, right? Which some people have done that. What if you're not finishing that bottle for 6 months? Last I checked, I don't want 6-month-old sushi. Right? So I think it's critical that we make sure that what we're taking has a specific potency, and LifeVantage has solved that problem for us. All we have to do is take it. And in this, because omega plus, right? So the essential fatty acids that are the omega-3s, and the DHEA to EPA ratio is critical for brain and eye. People ask me about that, and so what we're doing is we're affecting those primary tissues, and that's why the ratio is the way it is. It's a very common question we'll get. The other thing is they'll talk about the dose.
Yeah.
They talk a lot about, you know, is that dose high enough? What we're doing, guys, do you want to have a disease to take something?
No.
Like, do you guys want to be sick? No. Okay, well, neither do I. So all the products are designed for what? For vitality, right? It's vitality. So, and just out of curiosity, how many of you have noticed massive changes in your own bodies with these products? Now, look around the room for just a second. All right, guys, those are people experiencing results with these products, not cure, prevent, or treat, but that's what they're noticing, because these products are different. The reason why there's over 800, healthcare providers in LifeVantage in the business is because the products are so solid, and because the science is so solid, and for me specifically, it was because of hands like that. It was somebody else's results that caught my attention, right? And so the products we have are second to none in response to that. So when you're looking at the omega-3 fatty acids, having them and coming in from a very clean source, that's been covered. And to have vitamin D in place and also the omega-7s, huge. Now the therapeutic dose is a little bit different. Like if somebody's got something going on and you're actually measuring the levels, Dr. Gordon and I were talking about this earlier today about, is there a time where you might increase the dose of the omega-3 fatty acids? And so I kind of want to have you hear what he told me on that.
Yeah, before we get into that, let me just tell you about the freshness of the fish oil. So, being in a cardiology world, I get to see the pharmaceutical fish oil reps come in too. Okay, so there are drug companies that make fish oil, which is the most expensive fish oil in the world. And one day, one of the reps came in with one of them, and I said, "Have you ever cut one of these open?" He said, "No, I haven't. Let's do it." So we cut it open, and it smelled like rotten fish. Okay, this was a pharmaceutical grade fish oil. And so after lunch, when I went back downstairs, my nurse, when I walked past her desk, she kind of went, "Have you been cleaning fish?" I mean, you don't want to be putting stuff like that in your body. So if pharmaceutical companies have fish oil that's not fresh, you know that there's other bad fish oil out there. Ours is the freshest, as Dr. Brimhall mentioned, that I've ever seen. So getting back to the dose, or tasted, yes. Yes. Have any of you bitten into one of them? Yeah. It doesn't taste bad, does it? No. Try that with other fish oils. You'll, it's horrible. With regard to dosing, as a cardiologist, obviously I'm interested in the cardiovascular protective effects because the heart is more important than the brain I think, no, you may disagree. I don't know. We can have a debate about that.
I don't know, but there's no electricity to the heart. There's a problem.
True. Anyway, so there's been a lot of controversy about the protective role of fish oil in cardiovascular disease. And if you read, the medical literature, you'll see one study where it helped, the other study that it didn't. But here's the problem. In those studies that didn't show a benefit, they just gave the patients a specific dose of a fish oil and said, here, take this. Okay, but if you look at the studies where they actually measured the fish oil levels in the people to find out, number one, if they were taking it, and number two, if they were getting adequate levels in their blood, the results were much different. They were all very positive. And so there's a test that you can have done. It's called an omega index, and it measures the percentage of omega-3 fatty acids in your red blood cell membranes. And you want it to be 8% or higher, and here's why. When you look at all of the studies with thousands of patients, in those patients that had an omega index of 8 or higher, they had an 80% reduction in cardiac event rates. 80%. Guys, that's better than any medication out there. So because of that, I want to have an omega index as high as I possibly can. My omega index is 10, and I take 10 to 12 of our omega plus per day.
And just from the standpoint of when you measure that, I've measured these for years, that omega index, and literally, I think I can count on 2 hands after probably 5 or 6 years of running this test, people that had a normal or optimal omega index, and every single one of them were taking high quality fish oils for longer than a year. So it's super critical that we have that in this. How beautiful, all you have to do is open the Vitality stack up and take it.
So you have a good point. It is a cumulative effect. You cannot expect that in 2 weeks. You pop a few pills and then you think in 2 weeks you're going to see a difference. It takes time for the body to build the reserve and have that in every cell so it can be detectable at that level over 8%. Dr. Gordon, did we talk about, when we talk about Nrf2, about why physicians don't, I don't think we talk about that here. So we are talking about physicians, and a lot of physicians do not know about Nrf2. I mean, I get this question all the time. My physician doesn't want me to take Protem Nrf2. What can I do? So why is that physicians don't know about Nrf2?
Well, Nrf2 is a relatively new pathway that's been identified, and it was discovered in the mid-90s. And it hasn't been taught in medical schools. I even talked to a gentleman who finished all of his medical training a year ago, and I asked him, he did standard medical school, then he did an internal medicine residency, and then he did a fellowship in rheumatology. So he is one of the most recent grads I've ever talked to, and he said, we never learned about Nrf2. He came to one of my meetings, and that's where he learned about Nrf2. So when I first heard about Nrf2, I had no idea what it was. When I first heard about Protandim, and I thought, there's something wrong with me. I'm a doctor. I should know what this Nrf2 thing is, right? So then I go out and talk to doctors, and nobody else knew what Nrf2 was either, so I didn't feel so dumb. And then I started to ask myself, why don't they know about this pathway? Well, it's because prior to Protandim, there had not been any agents that actually activated that pathway, so there was no reason for them to know about it. But there's just been an explosion of research in the area of Nrf2, and at last count, there were over 10,000 published studies on Nrf2 on PubMed. And so with that explosion of research, yeah, that's a big deal. There are pharmaceutical companies now that are racing to try to develop Nrf2 activating drugs to treat all of these diseases that we know oxidative stress plays a role in. And one of the smartest people that I know was one of the first people that I called when I first heard about Protandim. He was a guy that I trained with, and he was at the time working for a major pharmaceutical company. And I called him up and I said, what do you know about Protandim? What do you know about Nrf2? He goes, oh my gosh, Mark. He said, the company that I'm working with, I'm actually working on a study right now where we have a Nrf2 activating drug that we're studying in a particular disease. And Protandim is a supplement, so we can't claim that it cures, treats, or prevents anything. He said, but we're doing a study on this drug to treat this one particular disease, and we've read all of Protandim's studies. We are very well versed on Protandim. And basically what he was telling me was, at least at that time, Protandim was the gold standard by which all other Nrf2 activators were measured. And I still believe that that's the case today.
The second is, guys, I just came back from the second Nrf2 conference in the world. Nrf2 as a therapeutic targeting protein for chronic diseases. And it was not intended for supplements. It was all about drugs and the future of the pharmaceutical companies. So let me tell you, multiple therapeutic applications of synthetic Nrf2s are coming on market. So we understand what we have, and we understand that we're first and the pioneers. Let me tell you, a few months ago, they sent a couple dozen mice in space. And why did they do that? To examine and investigate their Nrf2 levels. I'm sure they sacrificed them by now, but that's the future.
That is very well done. So it's more and more, there's going to be more and more awareness of Nrf2. We are in Nrf1, this is just starting. There is hardly any paper on Nrf1, so we are just ahead of the curve. And when everybody gets to the top, we'll be even higher. Oh,
I want to say one more thing.
Okay.
You guys probably are very well versed in the literature on protein. You've probably read all the studies. How many people have read all 27 studies? Raise your hand. Wow, I'm surprised. The Washington State article is not a Protandim specific article, but it is discussed. And that's the best article that I have found to give to healthcare practitioners to get them to understand what Nrf2 is. So if you have a healthcare provider who is interested in learning about Nrf2, get them that article, let them read it, and educate themselves. But in that article, one of their concluding statements is, and you've heard this before, Nrf2 may well become the most extraordinary therapeutic and most extraordinary preventive breakthrough in the history of medicine. And that says it all.
The study is, the author is Paul, P-A-L-L, 2015, out of Washington State. So, I want to ask you a question back there, unless you have a comment you want to make. You took so I know you wanted to make a
I
comment.
could read your mind. Not really.
So I want to ask you, so why the vitality stack?
Okay, great question. I guess you wanted to just talk on just a second. How many of you have felt like your healthcare is complicated, right? Wouldn't it be nice to be simple? Like to have a simple way of actually maximizing your body's potential? And I love the fact that quote by Washington State, and it's key, extraordinary twice in the same sentence is super unique. And to mention therapeutic and preventative in the same sentence, it blows my mind. What that means, all y'all, is we're talking about something that is truly therapeutic. It means they're going to use it to treat things with. At the same time, we're talking prevention, right? What are we? What is LifeVantage? We're a Nutrigenomics company at the forefront of that, right? And the Vitality Stack makes it super, super simple. For the last 20 plus years, my life has been teaching and training physicians all over Canada, Europe, and the United States. Teaching physicians of how to incorporate over 200 different nutritional products into their practices. Why 200? We weren't doing nutrigenomics. What we are doing is trying to fix different systems based on what synergy we could find and to try to help people, right? What you have your hands on with the Vitality Stack is you have the keys to biohack your body's human potential in every aspect that we know of, right? Reducing oxidative stress. Okay, you're getting the sanitation department to work, you're getting electricity to work, all right? And you're becoming efficient in everything that you're doing. So that Vitality Stack is so brilliant. Like, it's taken literally what I used to do, super complicated, 200 different products down to just 5. The Vitality Stack with the Axio, guys, and you have that answer, and you can explain it in a simple way, right? Do you want to function here, or do you want to function here, right? And we don't have to guess. If you're a mammal, these things work. We're talking about activating genes that we all have. That Vitality Stack is brilliant because it keeps it so simple, and you tie it to a business where you can help other people share it. Because guess what, guys? How many of you learned about LifeVantage and Nutrigenomics from your doctor? Raise your hands. Okay, is that one hand?
Yeah.
All right, so that means the rest of us doctors, we found out about it from who? You guys. All right, that's the power that you have, and the power of the products enough where it gets, 2 MDs and a DC and a PhD talking about this and be involved in network marketing, guys. We have a vitality stack. You just need to get it into people's hands, give them the chance, let them choose what they want, but educate them on the importance of the power of all of them together.
People ask me all the time what supplements I take, and I take things in addition to the Vitality Stack, but I tell people the Vitality Stack is the 4 cornerstones of what you need for good supplementation. Nrf2 to reduce the oxidative stress, Nrf1 to improve mitochondrial function, the omega-3s for all the protective effects, brain, heart, immune system, etc., and the probiotic. Now there's one other option if you don't want to take the probiotic, but it's not very pleasant. You need to get the right bacteria in your gut, right? And you can take a probiotic, but if that's not appealing to you, you can go to a clinic. I know that they have one in Phoenix, and you can have a fecal transplant, so it's your choice.
So guys, vitality, vita means life. So what we have to me is essential, meaning must in my body. Nrf2 precandum upregulates my cellular defense. Mitochondria turns on the good genes and gives me energy. Probiotics, other than populating the bowel and stuff, we know that microgut is our second brain. Over 90% of serotonin is made by microbiota. You know, let alone the over 80% of our immune system. And of course, the brain function relies on these essential omegas. So thank you.
Well, we are running out of time, so I would like to thank my panel for their willingness to come and educate all of us, including moi. Thank you very much for coming this afternoon. No. And then we shall see you in the hallways if you have any question. At the meantime, what do you call it, network, enjoy the rest of the day and absorb all the good information you got from all those breakout sessions. Thank you very much.